Hey guys, welcome to the podcast where I, Coach Mike Payton, invite other coaches on, I interview them, I ask them questions, I hopefully get to learn things from them, and I hope you guys will learn something along the way. Let's get right into the podcast.
I let my dog out, and we have like one of those screen doors in the back, and it's got like an automatic lock on it, like one of those like flick down locks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not like it's a, you know what I mean, like a flick now.
Oh,
Okay, so I have my daughter, my wife's already gone, she's at work. My dog runs into the next yard, so I'm like, God dang it, I run over there, I'm like, Kobe, get your butt in here. I'm like, getting him inside, and so I close the door so she can't run out. And anyways, I'm running back with the dog, and she's looking at me through the screen door. My daughter's 2 years old, she's like this tall. And so she can just barely reach up to that door lock, okay? She's smiling at me, I'm like, no! I'm like 5 feet away, and she goes,
oh no!
Locks herself inside my house.
Oh man!
So that's how today started.
Wow!
So I had to run around. Luckily, I had the garage door open, so I just ran around through the garage door and got in there. But there was like a second of like, oh shoot, man! I really messed up. My wife's not here. This is not good. But yeah, we got it figured out. So, but yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, then I came here and started with my first round of clients. Who'd I have today? I had a couple field hockey players I trained this morning.
Really?
Yeah. One of them actually just, the girl I'm training, she plays at Oakwood, and she just was named like all Southeast or Southwest Ohio, Southeast, Southwest something. And she's like, she's a sophomore, and this is her second year in a row. I think I posted it yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but it's her second year in a row. She like led all of Southwest Ohio in goals.
Wow.
And was like ahead by the next best person was like at 11. She was at 17.
Wow.
And like she's athletic, but dude, it's like I think that like her work ethic is what got her there. Like she's athletic, but it's like she's not like like naturally she's not just like the most athletic girl I've ever trained, but she works hard and she's got really good stick skills. So I trained them, and then I had a slew of clients after that. So we can go over those if you want to. But what's up, dude?
How'd you get back in your house?
Oh, dude. So I ran around, put the garage code in, got in there, opened it up. Luckily, she hadn't locked the garage door on me.
Oh, okay.
And so I got in there. What we got here?
Dang. So they didn't have like a caramel sweet cream.
That's kind of well.
So I went in there.
Now everybody knows I drink caramel sweet cream. So.
Well, I asked you. So they didn't have any.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I guess get them a vanilla coffee.
That's fire. Now
that's a mocha.
Yeah.
But then
that'll do it.
Yeah. So I just got a mocha.
No, I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's good.
What'd you have going on today?
Nothing. Probably just homework.
Oh yeah, the PT stuff.
Yep, studying and all that.
What are you learning right now?
Right now we're learning about the foot and ankle.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Right? It's really cool. It's like the basic stuff, so just muscle insertion, origin, and innervations.
Gotcha. That sounds like school.
It's great.
That sounds exactly like school. They teach you any like practical stuff though? Stuff that you can apply to?
They're not like teaching practical stuff, but I can kind of glean like things from it. So like whenever we went over so right now the first section of it was upper limb. So we were learning about the arm.
Okay.
And we started with shoulder girdle, shoulder, and then we went to like arm, and then forearm, and then hand.
Okay.
So now we're doing the lower extremity. Same thing. So hip girdle, upper leg, and then like lower leg and ankle and foot.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
you're just going over like the basics on those.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's just like muscles basically.
Mm-hmm. You need that stuff. You need it.
Yeah. It's cool stuff. Like it's like, oh yeah, like
you saying it's like bringing back memories of college. I'm like, oh man, I haven't been on that in a long time. Insertions, all that stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. But like then, so now that I know like a lot more of the specifics of like muscles and stuff, like it's like
stuff makes more sense on that.
Yeah, like I took the certification course and it's like, the stabilizer muscles. It's like, okay, yeah, cool, stabilizers. And then learning about each individual muscle, it's like, now I know what the stabilizers are. I know how to train them because I know their location, line, pull, and all that. And it's just like...
And then it does help.
It really does.
does help to know like what's working, what's helping with what. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a huge deal in training.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I think it's helped me to train my clients better already.
No.
So.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, like I told you the other day, man, like you being a physical therapist, doing that along with like your background in, was it Taekwondo?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you have like a good plethora of like knowledge and a skill set that a lot of people don't have. And it's like I said, like as you add up those training hours, I mean, you're going to be somebody that a lot of people would want to come train with. So I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
It's awesome, man. Sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else, man? What else?
I had come up with like a bunch of questions.
Okay.
And then I'm like, then I like sit down. I'm like, I forget everything.
You forget what you're gonna ask me. Yeah. That's okay. We can come up with something.
But the major thing that I wanted to know is like, first of all, how'd you get into like personal training specifically? Because I know like you were an athlete in high school, college, all that, and then But how'd you get into?
So I played college football at Anderson University. I actually had a lot of struggles coming up. Like when I was younger, so it all probably starts when I was younger. So like, I went through a growth spurt when I was like in 7th grade, okay? And it felt like I couldn't run. Like my hips felt really tight. Everything just felt super goofy to me. And I went from being like in Pee Wee, one of the faster kids on the team, to like 7th and 8th grade. It's like, wow, this kid's really slow. Like I would get made fun of for being slow.
Wow.
And I had knee pain, and I had hip pain, I had back pain, and I never really knew why, and it just really frustrated me.
Yeah.
So like I just went through 7th and 8th grade, but then it was like my freshman year of high school. I was like, man, screw this. I'm gonna put work in and try to figure this out. So and there wasn't like sports performance coaches and things like that back then. So it's just me like going in the gym and like doing extra power cleans and doing more. Like I did a ton of box jumping, like so many box jumps. I've done way too many box jumps. Like, oh dude, it's terrible. Yeah, like I just was obsessed with box jumping. Like every time I would train, I would box jump. And I actually ended up getting a pretty good vertical. Like, so my freshman year, I came in and I was like 95 pounds. I was a 95-pound freshman in high school. Sophomore year, I got up to like, I think it was like 140. Junior year, I'm 190. Senior year, I'm 220. So my body like gained a significant amount of size. And I remember like my freshman year of high school, we ran the 40, and out of everybody on the team, like we had like, oh dude, I don't know how many kids were on this team. You know, from freshmen all the way to seniors. And Butler's like a pretty big program.
Yeah.
It's not huge. It's not like a Texas program, but it's big, you know. And I was the slowest kid on the team. Like my 40-yard dash was the slowest. I think it was like a 5.8, something like that, my freshman year of high school. And it really bothered me.
Yeah.
It really bothered me. So my sophomore year, I started running track, and I did indoor track, and I had this coach named, I think his name was Dan Toby. And he was actually pretty smart with this like programming, and he had us doing a lot of like drop jumps, a lot of stuff where we had to absorb force, and he like varied training a little bit more than like usual, and it just like super interested me, and I ended up getting way faster. And anyways, like
that was your freshman year?
That was after my freshman football season. I went and ran like indoor track, and then I ran indoor track my sophomore year, and I made some mistakes too, and I'll go over those. But like I ran indoor track my sophomore year, did pretty well, and I did that all the way up until my junior year, and I went from running that 5.8 to, I remember we ran our 40s, and I ran a 4.6, so I literally dropped more than a second off of my 40 time, and I gained like dang near 100 pounds from my freshman year of high school to my junior year of high school. Then I became like the quintessential like meathead, because I struggled in school too. So like in school, I had a really hard time, and it wasn't because I was stupid. It was the way that my brain works, and I figured that out later on. Like as I got older, I've been figuring it out like in my 20s. Yeah. But like my brain doesn't work unless I'm moving, and in school they want you to just like sit there.
Yep.
So they would have me sit there, and I would just be like, Like, I remember they would have me take notes, and I would just be, like, drawing pictures. And, like, you could look through like, these pictures are pretty cool, but where's your notes? Like, I would be drawing cartoons, and, like, just, my brain was always just, like, in creation mode.
Yeah.
All the time. So, I really struggled in school. I had a lot of struggles in athletics at the beginning. Anyways, I got, like, addicted to lifting weights. And I didn't run track. After I ran that 4.6, I didn't run track my going into my senior year of football because I wanted to just like lift weights. I just wanted to get stronger. You know. And it ended up like I kind of regret it because now knowing what I know, I wasn't training aspects that transfer over to sport near as much because I didn't do that indoor track piece. I didn't run track.
Okay.
So I was in there doing stuff that I want to do. Like when I was in like a junior in high school, I loved squatting. So every time I would go in there, I'd be trying to hit like a 1 RM squat, which is just like not good programming. You know what I mean? Like, but nobody's telling me anything. I was like 1 RM deadlift, 1 RM squat, let's go bench. Like I was just trying to get my big 3 numbers up, just because I thought it was fun, and try to box jump higher. And it worked for a while, but when you're doing just like bilateral stuff on a maximal, like with a maximal intent all the time, you end up accumulating imbalances and things like that, right? So I ended up going and playing college football at a Division III school, largely because my grades were terrible. It wasn't because of my skill set. My skill set was not Division III. I mean, I started like right away there. But largely because I didn't have the grades to pass through that, like, what do they call it? NCAA something. I couldn't get, like, my grades weren't good enough to accept scholarships, more or less.
Yeah.
So I went and played at a Division III school. I started there right away, but I tore my ACL in Game 6. So then that ended up making me think even more about training because, like, through the rehab process, I like attacked it, and I trained really, really hard trying to get out of that. Like, I remember they assigned this girl to me. Like, there was a physical therapist like you know, I had like a bunch of them. They were like interns, basically, like college interns. So they would be assigned athletes and they would have to work with them.
Oh, that's cool.
And I remember this girl, her name was Tasha. She was assigned to me as my like physical therapist to take me through my rehab, and I worked her to death. I was like, you coming in at 5:30 a.m. tomorrow? She's like, yeah, I'll be there. I was like, you gonna be there this afternoon at before practice at 11? She's like, yeah, I'll be there. You gonna be here tonight at 7:30? Yeah, I'll be there. So I rehabbed and I worked her to death. Dude, like most of the athletes would come in and do like 1 rehab session a day. I was like, I need to get back.
Yeah.
Because like for the team I was on, I was an important piece in college, and I wanted to come back and like be there for my teammates and help them and help us win.
Yeah.
We didn't end up winning that much at all, but I wanted to be there and at least be there in the fire with them. So it's like I was doing everything I could to rehab. And anyways, that like really sparked my because the way that they like structured my rehab made me think a lot about like programming, and made me think more about, okay, I need to get more like in the weeds on how to program and how to train more like train more intelligently, more or less. So I started like studying on my own, and I was in the exercise science program there, and I started studying training there. So then my sophomore year, had a pretty good year. I was all conference. I ended up running my fastest 40 ever. I was running like sub 4.5s, and I was like 220 pounds. So that was pretty good, like coming off of an ACL. Did pretty well there. And I started getting super interested in training. So I would go in in the morning, like even during season, I would go in the morning at like 7 a.m. And I had this group of guys. 2 of the guys I can like really remember was like Jake Julian and Griffin Wallizer, these 2 guys on the football team. And they were both like athletic guys, but to be great, they needed to train hard. So they came in and started working out with me every day, and they would go through my workouts with me. So then I was like, man, now I got guys to train. So I started training them, and they trained with me because they were a year younger than me. And so they trained with me all the way until my senior year. And I wrote their programs, and I didn't even know what I was doing, really. Like, you know what I mean? Because you don't really know what you're doing. You're freaking 20. You know what I'm saying? So I wrote their programs my sophomore, junior, and then my senior year, because they were with me the whole time. And it ended up, like, we had a group of like 15 guys by the end of it that came and trained with us.
Wow.
To the point where it was like, that was kind of the off-season program, because like this college coaches number one, none of them really had like strength conditioning backgrounds, and they could only work with us for like 2 or 3 months out of the off season. So like a lot of the time, these guys were just training with me. So I was like tracking their sprints, tracking their 40s, tracking their squats, tracking their jumps, and like I just learned a lot about training with these guys. I mean, they weren't paying me a dime, but I was just learning a lot about training doing that. So anyways, my senior year of college football, I ended up playing pretty well. I ended up having a few NFL teams. I wasn't like a big NFL scout or anything like that, but like I had a few NFL teams look at me just because I had a pretty good amount of size and I was fast and I had put up pretty good numbers while I was there. So I had like, I think it was like the Chiefs and the Browns come to, it was like these scouts, they came to our school and they took 2 of us. There was one other guy that was pretty good there. It had a lot of good like physical qualities anyways. And they had us like run the 40 and do a vertical jump and then take the Wonderlick, which, you know what the Wonderlick is? Mm-mm. Dude, it's like this test that the NFL puts people through. Like Joe Burrow, I'm pretty sure got like a perfect score on it. But it's just a test of trick questions just to see if it's like I sucked at it. It was so, dude, it was real, because they want to see that you can like think logically and think fast. Because like the NFL is more of a mental game. Like if you want to be a good football player, it's not about like how well you lift. It's a mental game and it's a skill game. Like those guys that are really good football players, a lot of them don't even really like training that much. That's just a totally different bag of weeds. But yeah, like a lot of those guys aren't like meatheads. They're guys that really like football and study football and are constantly doing that stuff. So like the Wonderlick showed me that right away. I was like, dang, dude, I don't think quickly. I don't think quickly. I could, especially on a test. It was like basically highlighting all of my previous downfalls. Like, in school I was terrible on written tests, things like that. And then it was like this Wonderlick. And I was like, but anyways, yeah, they had us take the Wonderlick, run the 40. And then that was my junior year. Then my senior year, I played my season. And then I had a workout at Ball State, like a true pro day, where I like did the broad jump, the vertical, the 40-yard dash, the bench press, all of that stuff. And that actually taught me quite a bit too, because I had to train myself for that. During that time, I was interning at another gym, and the guy ended up liking me a lot as a trainer there. I was like interning and training for my pro day at the same time. Dude didn't really have time, for whatever reason. This dude that I was running the gym didn't have time to train me, so I kind of trained myself for this pro day. And I'll talk about some of the stuff that I wish I would have done different, because I think that might be interesting for people listening to this. So, but I was training kids there, and they ended up liking me a lot there. So I was running a lot of sessions. Baker actually worked there too for a little while I was there. Yeah, like as soon as I think I interned there my summer of my junior year. Okay. And then Baker was on his way out when I came back after my senior season. Oh, okay. So, anyways, what was I saying? So I was training for my pro day, and I was also training clients at this gym. So at my pro day, I found out that I was doing a lot of things improperly. So I ran my 40-yard dash, and I watched the video of myself afterwards, and my top end speed looked like trash. Like I noticed that like in my training, I worked way too hard from the 0 to 25 yard marker and not enough on the 25 to the 40 yard marker. Like I was sloppy up top. I had a weird arm swing, and I didn't look fluid. I didn't look bouncy. So I learned that like right away. I was like, okay, I got to do a better job of training this. And like, do I even know how to train this? Yeah. Because they don't teach you that. Like all these certifications, all these different like coaches and a lot of people don't understand like how to train like true like track speed. And track speed's really important for any sport, and I can go into that. I can go into that more if you want me to, but yeah. So I noticed that my top end speed wasn't there. My maximal strength numbers were great. Like I think I did 22 reps on the 225, and I was 220 pounds. So I put up 225 for 22 reps. That was one of the better numbers there. I had like a 35-inch vertical at that one, and there was a previous time I had a 38, and I had a 10-foot 2-inch broad jump. So that was the best number there was the 10-foot 2-inch broad jump. So it's like
Wow.
I had that maximal output, but some of the smaller stuff like I wasn't good at. Like they had us doing these like hip flip drills where you had to like use footwork and get yourself in better position to make plays on the ball.
Okay.
And I didn't do well there. I didn't have like great hips. I didn't have the finer details weren't as crisp as they should have been.
Okay.
And that was the same thing on the top end speed portion, right? Like it's like top end speed when you think about like if you're running a 40-yard dash, your acceleration phase should last 0 to 25, and then at 25 you should be like starting to rise up and get into like full cycle and like spin. And like that's more predominantly like rhythm and timing than it is force output.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't have that, and I didn't really know how to train it that well.
Yeah.
So, but now I think I'm very good at training that. Like especially with the kids that I train here.
Yeah.
And I train that pretty often myself. It's actually one of my favorite things to train. But yeah, anyways, so that ended up happening. I ended up not getting picked up. I didn't really even have an agent. I really just the main reason I wanted to do the pro day is number one, I got invited to it, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go try this. But number two, I wanted to show people that I was willing to put myself out there and try something. You know what I mean? Try something that a lot of people wouldn't try from a Division III school. Like, there's not a lot of guys that go get pro days.
Yeah.
So I wanted to at least go out there and give it my best shot and see if I get picked up. If you don't have an agent, though, you're not getting picked up. I learned that later, too. So, like, I wish I would have known that. Like, if you don't have an agent, if you don't have a hired agent that's working with you, you're not getting in. Because, like, these guys that there's one other guy that got picked up at my pro day, and all of the agents of the guys that were at this pro day working out, like, immediately, like, stormed the field immediately when the workout was over. They, like, all stormed the field, and they come up and they're, like, talking to all the coaches, like, instantly.
Wow.
So it was like, if you didn't have that, they probably don't even remember you. Unless you were just so outstanding, and I wasn't. I mean, I was like, those guys, I mean, I was a really good athlete, but those guys are the elite of the elite, the guys that play at that level. So
Yeah.
anyways, I came back home and took over the gym that I was working at before. He gave me like a head performance coaching type job. I didn't get paid like hardly anything, but I got to train a lot of kids, and that's all I really cared about. So I trained. I was training, like, he had me training all day, dude. I was like, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I wouldn't leave there until like 9 o'clock at night. Most of the time. Like Monday through Friday. And I would just be training people all day, groups of one, groups of like,
That's insane.
till I was like blue in the face training people. And like, I learned so much from that.
Yeah.
I learned so much from that. So
Makes sense.
that's how I started. And then like my first client that I ever got there, I ended up getting like a private client there. And his name was Tommy Cope. I didn't even know what I was doing with him. I wish I could have trained him now. Mm-hmm. I trained him for a long time, and like we did some good stuff. But I wish he could have trained with 31-year-old Sammy rather than 20-year-old Sammy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I got him, and he ended up becoming he was a swimmer at Michigan.
Okay.
And he became a pro. That was the first client I ever got.
Wow.
And I was like, oh dang, this is pretty cool. You know what I mean? I didn't even really know what I was doing, and that guy just went crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I did that. And I trained there to the point where it was like to the point where the guy couldn't really pay me anymore. Like, to what I felt like I deserved. I just worked as hard as I could. I think I worked there for like 4 years. And then I had another guy that I was training him personally. Mm-hmm. He offered me this position to run an online business. So I started this online business called Virtual Performance. Mm-hmm. And I was like 25. When you're 25, you don't know anything. You really don't. Like, I don't know anything right now. I'm 31. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. All these trainers, like, that are on Instagram and on Twitter, they all, TikTok, whatever the freak, dude, they all act like they know everything, and it's so frustrating. Because there's like a million ways to skin a cat, dude. There's like so many ways that you can approach training.
So many.
I mean, it's crazy, and there's so many ways that work. There's weird stuff that works. Like, have you ever looked at GOTA?
No. I don't know. What is that? So
GOTA, like, there's a baseball player that I train, and I had to study up on it a little bit. I don't like I don't not like it, but I'm not going to use it as like my main training protocol. But like, there's a lot of guys that really get a lot out of it, and it basically, the premise of it is that is getting proper joint stacking. So GOTA makes you do everything with like your head over your foot and like a coil. Like everything they do, they're like heads over their foot. They're creating a bow with their outside leg, creating tension through like their lateral sling, and like everything they do is like that. It's so wild, and that works. And then there's like Mike Boyle, who's like the most basic guy ever. Is like Bulgarian split squat, hex bar deadlift, like and like that works. You know, and then there's like Cal Dietz. I studied all these guys. Like Cal Dietz is like triphasic training, talking about doing eccentric oriented stuff at the beginning of your training cycle, then moving to isometric, and then doing more concentric strength type stuff. It's like he has like a really good progression, and all of these things work. You know, but you can't be like me. I can't be Cal Dietz. I can't be GOTA. I gotta be Sam. I gotta figure out what works for me. So that's kind of what I did. But where was I, dude? I think I just went on a huge tangent. I was talking about that virtual performance thing, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was working at this, I was doing this like online business where we were like, it was an AI. It was an artificial intelligence. Now we're talking about a kid that struggled with grades. Now I'm making an artificial intelligence. But anyways, right? So we're making an artificial intelligence. I'm at UD almost every day, going over like how we want to set this thing up. I'm shooting videos every day. I'm setting up databases on this AI. I did this for 3 years. Year 3, the dude that was running this for me tells me, we can't do this anymore. We've run out of money. And it was partially my fault. Like, I just was like kind of shuffling my feet on things. I didn't move fast enough with it to get it off the ground. But anyways, it ended up just not working out. But I learned a lot from that, because that made me think about every single facet of my training. Yeah. Like, you can't put an AI out there without knowing what you're doing.
That makes sense.
So I've probably listened to, because I'm like a very I don't know if you like a vocal learner. Yeah. Like, I learn a lot from like podcasting, and I've like listened to a lot of books. Like, I probably have listened to like 2,000 podcasts.
Dang.
Like, I've listened to so many podcasts, and I don't like talk about them specifically, because I don't believe in like listening to something and then directly applying it. I don't believe in that. I believe in like letting it kind of go through your system, go through your own mental process, and then it just comes out in your programming. That's how I believe you should apply. Like, if you're learning from like a podcast, or if you're learning from books, let it go through, because then it's more authentic, you know? Yeah. Like, a lot of people listen to podcasts and they're like immediately applying stuff. It's like, dude, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of ways to do things. So you should, and you need to find like your way of doing things. Like, as a trainer, you need to be finding your way that you apply these things. So it's a lot better, in my opinion, to listen, to learn, and then let it go through its natural process and let it come out in your work. Yeah. So, but anyways, making this AI made me do that, and gave me a lot of direction when it came to training. So then when I would train somebody in person, it was just so easy. Like, I came here, okay, so I'm making this AI. I was training people at Empower, like on a low, like I was paying rent, just training clients, right? Yeah. And it became like super easy for me to program for them. And I started really understanding like what I was doing, and it just like kept picking up momentum as this online thing started to dwindle. So the online thing shuts off. I'm training a bunch of clients at Empower. I've got a bunch of athletes I'm training, some really good athletes that I was training at that point. And I was like, dude, I need a job. Like, I need a full-time job. I don't really have like a full thing going. Ended up like partnering with Empower. So I talked to Empower. I was like, hey man, I could run this whole performance program and just like take it over and run it for you guys. And we worked out a deal, and now I run the performance program here. Yeah. So that's how that all went down.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
30 minutes later. Sorry.
Well, no, that's exactly what this is for. Like, it's cool to, like, I've always thought it was cool to do something like this, because then you get to like, if somebody watches this they'll get to understand like where you come from and what you've done, and like I don't know. I feel like sometimes whenever you're working with a coach, especially in a class setting, it's hard to like humanize your coach.
Yeah.
And then you watch like this, and you're like, wow, this guy knows his stuff, you know? I just think it's really cool. So this is precisely what it's for.
Yeah. And it's always kind of frustrated me too when people don't admit like where they've messed up.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, that's a smart guy. A guy that's able to be like, yeah, this is what I used to do this really poorly. Like this was not optimal, you know? And if you're able to admit that, like, dude, you can go so much further. Like if you can just admit like, okay, I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right. I need to learn more. I need to get better. It's just like, dude, I'm 31. It's like, I'm learning something new every freaking day. Like I was telling you the other day, we were talking over there by the wall. It's like, I'm learning something new every day, training. And like, I'm learning stuff from my clients now to the point where it's like, I have a ton of knowledge on training, and now I'm learning new stuff just because I'm applying that to my clients, and I'm seeing stuff. I'm like, oh man, that worked. I'm going to tweak it this way. We can go into specifics if you want to later on, but like, yeah, there's just so many things I'm learning just from training now.
That's really cool. And you were saying that the other day, and I was like, that's like, you know, you've hit a certain level of like knowledge when you can do that, because it's like, I see how like, say Will trains like a boxing client or a Taekwondo student, and like he does that, and it's just like, you know, you've hit a certain level in something whenever you are learning from like just experiencing it.
Yeah.
Rather than having to like gain this like baseline knowledge of like your textbook kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's a necessary part, but then you have to like, then you get to a certain point. And I think a lot of people just, like you said, like they don't admit when they're wrong, and they don't admit like when they've done things wrong. And so they can't move past that.
No.
And into the phase where you're like learning from the people that like you're providing a service to. And yeah, I think it's just really cool.
Yeah, that's like part of being a good entrepreneur too, right? Like being somebody who's self-employed. Like if you can't see what you've done wrong in the past, and you can't see like where you could have been better, and you can't admit that, you're never gonna work on it, dude. You're never gonna push past it and actually get better. Because that's all I'm about, dude. Is just like every day I just want to get better. That's all, dude. That's all I care about. It's like awesome. Physically, like in my own training, when I'm training clients, like I feel like every time, like I got to train for 3 hours today. I trained like 9 clients this morning.
Yeah.
And dude, I feel like I learned so much just right there, dude.
That's awesome.
You know, and that's all I want to do is I just want to learn. And like something that I've struggled with in the past is doing things like this, being open and being authentic in a forum like this. Most people wouldn't admit that either.
That's true.
Like, dude, I've been so poor in like public speaking type of settings, and like just have a hard time letting my walls come down and being myself. Like I've really struggled with that in the past. And a lot of people are like, dude, you seem so confident. It's like, dude, I'm actually not. Like, I'm actually not. I've had to work really hard to get to the point where I'm like, I can even come off confident. But dude, I think that's part of being becoming a better person, is just being able to admit where you have shortcomings and learning from them, dude. Honestly, I really do. So
yeah. Sometimes the more you talk, the more I relate to you. Like in the precisely that thing. Like the I was a missionary for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And like you have to do public speaking and everything. And I think I had like a similar problem where it was like I wasn't being quite authentic.
Yeah.
And then after a year of doing that, I was like, something's off. And then like going into the second year of doing that, it clicked a little bit, but I still think like that's still a thing. Do you ever find that like whenever you're training like groups of clients that you tend to do that more? Or like
that's what's weird. Is when I'm training people, dude, it's like Sam comes out. Like right away. It's just the weirdest thing. It's like Sam comes out, like the real Sam's like right there. And I'm training. But like before we did this right here, I was in the bathroom. I was like, God, don't let me be a freaking doofus. Like, you know what I mean? Don't let me be a doofus on this camera. Give me the right things to say. Give me the right, let me be authentic. I want people to know who I actually am. Not like this fabricated, like, tight version of me.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't like that. I don't like hearing myself talk like that. And so, yeah, it's like right before this even. Right before this right here, man, what we're doing right now. Like, I was like, oh, God. Yeah. You know, don't be a doofus.
Right.
And I felt like a calm come over me before I came in here, and now I feel really good. But,
that's awesome.
yeah, dude, it's like, and I'm 31, man. There's a lot of people that are 31 that would never admit it's like,
right.
oh, yeah, I get nervous still. It's like, dude, no, I do.
Yeah.
I do, you know. But yeah, anyways, dude, you're asking the right questions too. I have a lot of passion behind the things that I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot easier for me to, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. That's why I like you a lot, because that's like, I've watched like the podcast with you in the past, and the fact that you're able to at 20 years old, like, okay, when I podcast, I can't just be asking these basic questions. I have to be real, and I have to get in like a real situation, put these people in like a real situation to where, like, you naturally just are able to get people stuff. That's why I think that you'll be able to be really good, like, as you go forward. I mean, you're like, how old are you? 20?
22.
22. When I was 22, I was playing football and drinking pre-workout and acting like an idiot. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think that you're doing like really good.
Thank
so,
you. I appreciate that.
But anyways, yeah. What else, man?
So there was a thing that you were talking about the other day that I was like, man, I would love for you to expand on that. You were talking about linear periodization and how, like, you could end up detraining your athletes using linear periodization.
Yeah.
So I had two questions on that. One, what is linear periodization? And then two, what is the alternative to that, so that you don't detrain your athletes?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So think about like different types of periodization. There's like block periodization, there's linear periodization, and there's like conjugate. So like linear periodization is more or less when you build the athlete like a pyramid. So like you do more volume. Like, if let's just talk like something basic, like you do more volume at the bottom.
Okay.
And then as you get closer to the top, you get more like specific, and you get like, so you would do, just for like a basic, you would do 20s for a while, you'd do 15s for a while, you do 12s for a while, and you would just slowly ramp that up. So if you think about like from a muscular perspective, like if you're doing just high rep work, just hypertrophy work for a whole block, you're gonna get slower.
Yeah.
For sure. And you're gonna lose a lot of qualities that you're gonna want to have built in all the time. So like when I build programs, I don't use linear periodization. I use some principles of linear periodization, but I don't use linear periodization. I build everything in like what's his name? Christian Thibodeau. He talks about this a lot. He talks about how if you're going to peak somebody here, everything in the program needs to be in the program at the beginning at a regressed level.
Ah, okay.
Everything in the program.
So you just take
like
the same things.
My college program, the guy that, yeah, right, okay. So like if you're gonna do sprint, if like your goal is to get somebody faster, you need to have that sprint training at a lower regressed level from the very beginning. So like if you're top in, like if you're, let's say like in your peak block, or like your like part of like the top end of your program, you're gonna do like fly 10s, which is like a max velocity type test. You need to have sprint mechanics, different type of bouncy drills at the beginning of your program, and then build upon those throughout the program, and it should ramp into max velocity sprinting.
Oh, okay. That makes
and
a
then
lot
you
of
should have different types of, like, after you get them through like some preparation and you get them running correctly, it's like you should have different types of max velocity sprinting in the program all the way to the top. Because like a lot of getting faster and jumping higher is building up a good history. So a lot of people think like if you do this like 6-week program, or if you train with me, like that's what I don't like. It's like a lot of coaches will claim that if you do your program that you're going to get faster, and maybe you will, but like people that can jump high and people that run fast have a history of jumping high and running fast. They don't just do it for 12 weeks and all of a sudden they're like, you know what I mean? Like you have to have it built in all the time. So that's like when I'm training kids, I'm trying to get them to like, I don't care about money that much. Money's gonna come. I want them to be in my program as long as they are freaking playing sports. Because that's going to build the history of what they need. Like, if they're training, like that's like, if they train for a month, that's like 2 max velocity sprinting sessions. That's not going to do that much. No. I mean, you might get a really good response from it like the first time, and that's like how you sell. It's like, you know, if you train a kid for a month and you do a couple of really good max velocity sessions, and then your time is 40 and you get his 40 down, like a significant amount. It's like, oh, that's great marketing. It's like, well, that's because that's the first time I've used it. After that first training cycle, those first couple of training cycles, it becomes a lot harder. That's how you know if a coach is good or not, is if he can continue to build upon speed and continue to make somebody more resilient as they move through their career. And if you want somebody to run faster, jump higher, all these things, you need to build it in through the program the whole way through. And they need to be building up a big history of doing those things. Because a lot of kids suck at sprinting just simply because they haven't done it. A lot of kids suck at sprinting because they haven't sprinted enough.
Yeah.
They've sprinted like what they're in, like a lot of times they don't sprint properly. So like if you're sprinting at practice, right? You have a kid sprinting at practice. They run like gassers. Number one, it's like you're too tired to run fast with good mechanics if you're running gassers. And that's the majority of like straight. So like I'm thinking about like when I played college football, at the end of the practice, they would all line us up on the end of the, and this is in college, this is absurd. I'm being honest. I'm not trying to put anybody down, but this is absurd that they have you do this. But like, you'll line up at the one side of the field, you'll run down and you'll run back, like, and you'll hit like glycogen storage where you start burning, like it's like that lactic acid buildup. Like they'll push it that hard to where you're like burning and like super freaking tired. Yeah. And like you don't ever want to. Oh man, we're gonna go into something.
That's all right.
You don't even want to get there. Like if you're playing football, football's an anaerobic sport where you're like being explosive, constantly, like over and over again. And if you've practiced like wearing your shit out, I mean wearing yourself out, like you're wearing yourself out running, you're gonna do that in the game. Like I've seen guys that do CrossFit, for example. Like if you do CrossFit. You ever notice, like, when people do CrossFit, I have nothing against it. Like, I think it's a good way to, like, train if you're a general. So I'm not trying to talk down on CrossFit. But, like, have you ever noticed, like, when people do CrossFit, it's like they're working towards that thing where they're, like, laying on the ground, like,
yeah. They just absolutely deplete themselves.
If you practice doing that, your body's going to try to do that when you're playing sports.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
So kids that condition a lot in the off season are always tired when they're playing sports. It's bizarre, but kids that go play basketball or go play spike ball, you can't be tired or like have your head down. Like you want to recover and you want to be able to play efficiently. So they like that's a way better conditioning means to me, especially for something like basketball or or football where you have to be like relatively explosive. That's a way better means of conditioning than doing like CrossFit where you're like practicing killing yourself. Yeah, because you'll go out there in extra effort. You'll over effort like. You'll watch a kid that does a lot of conditioning or does like a CrossFit type of program, and like they'll go out there and like play their sport, and they're like moving extra, and they're like, nobody that's good at sports does that.
Yeah, so they're like wasting energy during.
They're basically burning up energy because that's how they train.
Yeah, huh?
That's literally my theory on it. I've never really heard anybody talk about it before, but I've just noticed that like, why do we condition like that? That's so stupid. Just seems like a really poor way of conditioning someone.
Well, that makes sense because like if you look at like training in like the grand scheme of things, right? You always want to train the things that so like for example, a deadlift, right? A lot of people are like, okay, let's train the range of motion of the back to train up your lumbar spine, right? Your low back, and so they're like, oh, let's do like a glute ham raise or whatever to strengthen up the low back. Well, it's like you're not training it the way that you're using it. So if you want to train your low back for a deadlift, why not do isometrics? Because you're doing an isometric low back contraction during a deadlift. So like what you're saying makes a lot of sense because it's like you're training the way you want to perform, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a really good. I was trying to think it through, like what you were saying, and I would probably agree with that. I'm so far from like training lifts as like a main like.
Yeah.
I don't even test my kids' lifts because there's a number of reasons. I don't test their lift because if that becomes the focus, like their lifting becomes the focus, you're gonna see all sorts of compensations. This is just what I've noticed.
Okay.
So like if they're like, I've got to hit this 1 RM, I got to hit this 5 RM, whatever. They're going to do everything they can. They're going to take it all from their, like they say, their back squat. They're going to take it all from their low back and drive it up. And you're not even really when kids train like that, you're not even really getting the stimulus you think you're getting.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting like if you're training a squat, right? You're trying to when it becomes to, I think about how it would apply to like sprinting or jumping. You're trying to get the muscle strong that would allow you to sprint and jump more effectively, right? If you're doing that with compensation, are you actually training those muscles? Are you actually training that movement pattern? I would say no. So it's like, for me, when I have kids doing like let's say like front squats, box squats, I have them do all that stuff, but I have a bar speed parameter around it, and I have a technique parameter around it. And if they don't hit those two parameters, dude, not because I'm like technique god or I'm like gonna perform. No, I'm like, I want it to look good, man.
Yeah.
I want it to look good so I know I'm training the things that I'm supposed to be training.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And if you are telling kids to beat their freaking 1 RM, they are not gonna look good. I promise you, they're not.
Yeah.
Especially because lifting's not their job. Like these athletes that I train, it's like lifting is not their job, man. Like their job is to freaking ball out on game day.
Yeah.
That's their job. So it's like, I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna take away from them performing well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I stopped doing like the test their lifts thing. Like tested trap bar deadlifts. Oh my God, dude. I see people testing trap bar deadlifts. I'm like, you're not even training your posterior chain anymore, dude. You got your low back like just completely rounded.
Yeah.
You're not driving to the floor. Because like, dude, there's studies on trap bar deadlift where like, and I don't have the exact study, so whatever. But like, you know, there's studies that show like with proper trap bar deadlifting, like it can improve your acceleration numbers, like improve how well. And I would say that would be true for almost any like force dominant. Because like, what's cool about a trap bar deadlift is that it's like the concentric movement is first. So like think about like a squat, like you yield and you move down eccentrically first and then you explode up. Well, like trap bar deadlifts, I think, improve acceleration so much, and I think this is true for box squats too, by the way, because you're breaking up the concentric and the eccentric portions of the lift. So like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you don't come down with the trap bar deadlift first, you stand up with it.
What about like a normal deadlift? Like a
Same thing, yeah. I actually think normal deadlifts are better than trap bar deadlifts, but we can go into that later. But like,
really?
I do. And people always love trap bar deadlifts. People are all so hard for trap bar deadlifts, but it's like, it's because they're easier.
They are.
And that's a bad reason to like something, in my opinion. Like, because it's easier.
They're easier to teach too.
Yeah, but like you think about, they're way easy to teach. You stand in there, you squat it up. Yeah. Like a real deadlift, a true deadlift, you have to create torque through your hips. You have to keep yourself back. Like it trains your posterior chain way more. So like when I'm training kids, like even my baseball players, I'd rather have them do like a straight bar deadlift than a trap bar. I would. I mean, and a lot of people are like, what about their shoulders? Like, oh, get real, dude. The thing is, because they're holding a straight bar, that it's going to change like their shoulder structure. Like, get real, dude. That's just they're standing there with it for like 3 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know what you're
saying. I think that's kind of absurd. Like, I think the whole like trap bar deadlifts are awesome thing is like kind of weird. But like I like them. Like I'll throw them in there in a training cycle now and then. And there's different thought processes I have that would make me lean towards a trap bar deadlift over a straight bar. And there's certain training cycles that I would like it. But yeah, what were we, dude? Where did we? We were talking about periodization or something,
no, we were, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where we were.
We were talking about periodization.
Yeah, we were.
That's how it started, but there was.
But yeah, I was talking about how you want to build qualities in from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
So, if you think about like, if you want to build like force production, or if you want to build maximal strength, let's say, and you're training in the 15s. So like, okay, this is where we were. So when I played college football, we would do a linear periodization block where we would start like doing sets of 20, then we would do sets of 15, then we would do sets of 12, and then we would do like whatever. It would just keep coming down. It was like the most boring, monotonous thing I've ever done in my life. We would do that and we would not sprint. And then all of a sudden, we would start sprinting and everyone would get hurt. Everyone would get hurt. The whole team would get hurt. And I was like, this is the worst program ever. And I just saw that even when I was younger. I was like, this sucks. Like, this is not working. Like, because like the contractions that you go through when you're lifting weights are nothing like sprinting.
Yeah.
So if your program consists of 95% lifting weights and moving slow, because even like a banded trap bar deadlift, like a banded deadlift or a banded squat where you're like trying to like maximally explode up on the concentric, even those contractions are way slower than like a sprint. Way slower. Like how fast your muscles have to contract, how fast you have to produce force. On a sprint, I can't remember what the exact number is. It's like 0.02 seconds or something crazy. That might not be it. But it's like
it's very fast.
Yeah, you have to produce force. And that's why it's so hard to train. And that's why some kids just have it and some kids don't. Like some kids naturally have the fascial system and the spring built in their body to where they can produce force like that. And they don't even have to be that strong. That's why some kids can come in and just like run really fast because they have this like really efficient fascial system and they can put force in the ground really, really quickly. But like a squat, like if you're like doing squats, number one, you can take that away from somebody. Like a lot of these kids that are super fast, I'm really careful about how much maximal strength training I do with them, how much slow strength training I do with them. Because I don't want to take away what makes them so good.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that I'm not going to have them strength train or whatever, but like I'm even more so like, all right, let me see how this looks. Yeah. Because they want to get stronger. Like no kid, they want to get stronger, but like if the kid's super fast and he can like, you don't want to like have him do so many slow, hard contractions that he gets slower, like and he loses that timing and that like that fascial spring that he's got naturally. So. Yeah, like I think back to what we were talking about. So like, I think when you're training someone, let's say it's like a baseball player or any athlete. I train a lot of baseball players now. It's like the sprinting needs to be built in from the beginning at a sub maximal level, and it needs to build into more maximal levels. And you need to be trying to accumulate exposures at maximal levels in sprinting. And then you need to be watching what they're doing. That's why I test my kids every 3 weeks. You need to be watching how their times are getting affected by what you're doing and then adjusting things based upon that. Like I have a lot of kids that I train right now that don't have a lot of experience sprinting. So I time their 40s and I also video them. When I'm watching them run their 40, I'm watching their acceleration phase, I'm watching their second gear acceleration phase, and I'm watching them work up into top end. And a lot of them right now, like over effort at top end to where they're putting their feet down really quickly, but they're not moving anywhere. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. They're not being efficient in how they're striking the ground at top end. So I've got to put them in position to where they can practice that. So their training reflects that, like they're doing longer, and a lot of people hate them, but I really like them, like longer tempo runs, like longer, not like tempo miles. I'm talking about like a 150 where they're getting up and they have to like stay on top of it, and I'm cueing them to like stay tall and stay bouncy and get better at cycling, at submaximal level, and then over that training cycle I'll build up the speed of it. But like I'm watching them all the time, and that's how I'm adjusting my programming. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I also have like underlying like systems that I run for my programming, but I'm also watching them and like picking exercises based upon their results on these tests and things like that, and how they look when they're doing things. Dang, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, it's like worked. I don't know how other people do it. Like it's just the way I've done it.
Well, if you think about it, like the principle of specificity, right? You gotta train what you want to get better at. Right. So it's like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why wouldn't you put, and that's why I think a lot of people, and I mean, you already know this, but a lot of people on your team, on your football team, would get injured whenever they started sprinting, because it's like, you're not doing that for so long. Yeah. You're doing something that's kind of the opposite of that. And then you're going right into that, expecting the body to just be like, okay, we're doing this. Great, we know how to do this. But in fact, you don't.
Right. And they don't even have like built in. I'm pretty obsessed with sprinting. I'm pretty obsessed with sprinting. Just because that's like the one thing that was what got me interested in training in the first place, was like I need to get faster. And I was doing all the wrong things for a while and still getting faster. Like, 'cause for a while, almost anything works. Like, you know, when you haven't done something, it's like, it's so novel that sometimes it just works, like for no reason. Like you put a kid on a squat training cycle, he squats for the first time and he might run faster just because it's such a novel stimulus. And
the body's like,
it's like, I'm stronger. Yes. I don't know why that works. I don't know exactly why that works like that, but I don't think maybe some people scientifically know why, but like, sometimes kids just run faster because something's novel. The way when you introduce it, it's novel to them, and that's why you have to be careful when you're training kids. Like when I'm training kids, like I think about this a lot, is that a lot of coaches will do like really high end type of training early in a kid's development. That's a mistake. So like for me, like my young kids, they stay in the pocket and train really, really basically for a very long time. And they work on their fundamentals and they work on that base for a very long time. Now they're playing games and they're doing things where they're competing against each other, and that's what keeps training like interesting. But like in terms of their strength training, it's like, let's learn how to lift properly. Let's do isometrics to teach you how to hold proper positions. Let's do those things. We're not contrast training. Like, so I've like literally seen on Instagram, and people like will like it. Like it'll be like 1,000 likes. It's like 12-year-olds doing contrast training, and I'm like,
what's contrast training?
So contrast training is where you do something that would like fire up the nervous system and get you producing at a higher neuromuscular level. Like let's say you do a box squat and then you do a box jump, something heavy, something light and fast and explosive. It's like, that's a super novel stimulus. I want to use that later. I don't want to use that when a kid's 12, because then it's not going to work as well when he's 19. You get what I'm saying?
I think so.
Some parents will take kids to places that are using these like super high end like training protocols, and they're peaking kids but early, and then when they're actually like at a point where their foundation is built and they're at a point where that type of training is necessary, like a higher level of training is necessary, it doesn't work because they already did it when they were freaking 12 years old. Like a super novel style of training.
Interesting.
It should be like your ace. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it should be your ace. Like it's something that's like super novel, like something like a contrast training, or that should be saved for guys that are like, okay, I have a kid named Hunter Richardson that I train, and I used some more novel type stimuluses in his last training cycle because he had a showcase that was super important for him getting recruited to go to college. Now I didn't use everything. I didn't use like the stuff I would use when he's a pro. But I used some higher levels of training with him just to get him peaked out and like get a novel stimulus out of him, so that he had just that little extra when he went to this showcase, you know?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But if I would have used that with him when he was 8, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
You know, because he already did it when he was 8. And then, you know, you think about those type of things, like if you do that with like real young athletes like that, you can build bad motor patterns, like because they don't have their foundation built.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like my young guys don't do a lot of like box squatting; they do a lot of goblet squatting. That's like, to somebody that's in strength conditioning, and they're like, oh, duh. But like somebody who's not into that, it's like they'll be like, oh, okay, that might make sense. Like goblet squatting puts the load in the front, allows the athlete to stay tall and sit down in a squat properly. I want like my young kids to be perfect at that before I put them under a box squat and start trying to get them maximally strong. Right. Yeah. Like if they get strong through a full range of motion on a goblet squat when they're 12, they're going to run faster. You know what I mean? So like my younger guys don't box squat. My older guys do, the ones that I've had for a while. And if a kid comes into me when he's, 15, 16, and he has like very little training age, he's going to goblet squat too. because that's going to be just as novel a stimulus as a box squat.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as cool, but it's just as novel a stimulus. It's not gonna get as many Instagram views, but it works.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between being effective in training and trying to get Instagram likes. But that's a totally different thing to go down. But anyways,
that's very true.
Is there do we have any more questions on like on the programming side or like? Man, we went into it. Like there's just so much to that.
Right? I love it. I love that, like, I love learning how much I don't know, because like you've said things and I'm like, man, this is really cool. Like, because in high school I was like, oh yeah, I know everything. I know all that. I know all this stuff. I'm a genius. I know how to train. I'll train everybody.
Yeah, right.
I tried to get my siblings and everything into training. I was good at cueing them at forms, like how to do things form-wise, but not. I didn't know how to program. But then like getting into this now, and like I shadowed Dr. Luke for a while before I applied to the PTA program. Like I watch how Will trains people, I watch how Mike trains people, and like and I've done podcasts with people, and like learning all this like intricate stuff. I'm like, man, there's so much to learn. Like I'm just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really cool to hear. So like, because I've heard about like linear periodization. I didn't know quite like 100% what it was. And then like I use more of like a phasing system whenever I train people. But most of my clients are like general fitness clients, not so much like athletes. But yeah, so you talked about linear periodization. There was a blocking.
Yeah.
And then there was...
and those are like blocking is pretty advanced, but then there's like, so you kind of have to figure out how you do it.
Yeah.
In your own way. You know what I mean? So like, if we're talking about programming, like I'm training this guy as a pro baseball player right now.
Mm-hmm.
When he comes back from the off season, or when he comes back for the off season rather,
mm-hmm.
I want to start with a block that's going to get him, feeling better and get him like roll him back into training like kind of slowly. So we're doing a lot of like barefoot like plyometrics where he's like, people call them recumbent hops, where they're doing like a lot of like repeat jumps and holding a rhythm and keeping like that bounce the whole time. They're not maximal. Basically, they're building up your body's ability to jump like healthy, more or less. Like you get a lot of that naturally. Like if you're playing basketball, like if you play basketball, you naturally get like a lot of these like smaller, quicker like jumps, hops, like movements side to side. But like when you're training somebody like that, I like to mimic whatever my focus is for the day. So like I have 2 linear speed type days with him because he's a shortstop and he hits like high up in the batting order. So he needs to be like stupid fast. So like I prioritize his speed. And then like when it comes to his strength training, I'm doing, I've based the program off of this, there's a guy named Michael Yesis who runs this thing called 1x20, basically where you focus on, there's like a wide array of exercises. Like I usually run 10. I have 10 on each day for him. And basically you train them with one hard set. Like I'll usually let him do like this is getting, like I don't want to give all this away for free, but anyways, like, so basically I'll do like a primer set where I just like let them feel the movement. Cause I don't believe in just like jumping under a bar and just like start going. That doesn't really make sense to me. So like I'll have them do like a little primer set, like for like 5, and then I'll do like, I'll get a weight in their hands and have them push as close to 20 as they can get. And then like I run this for 3 weeks. They're only doing 2 sets per exercise. There's 10 exercises. I'll run this for like 2 to 3 weeks before I even get into like a hard training block. And it gets their like, it gets all of their like my exercise selection is totally different in that block than it would be. And like for him, it's going to be like a tempo eccentric block next. So like, he'll do 2 to 3 weeks of this, and that's going to get his body back into like a trained state because he hasn't been training. Mm-hmm. It's going to get him back into a trained state where he's not super sore. It's going to help build some of his muscle back. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to overtrain him. That's the main thing that I'm looking for. Because like a lot of times coaches will go in and like just blast you like right off the rip, right when you come back. Mm-hmm. Usually don't get really good adaptations, like steady adaptations over that. Mm. You know, he gets sore from this one set.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Then after that, and I still got the speed stuff built in there, that's his strength training. Mm-hmm. Then after that, I'm going into like his first strength training cycle. His first like true training cycle. I'm going to do with him, I like to start off, and I don't do this all the time because this actually can affect how fast somebody sprints, but like I like to start off with more tempo type work where they're controlling the eccentric portion of the lift on their main exercise. And I will keep that same block the same through all of my training cycles. So like on Mondays, like when he gets into his second training cycle after this like preparatory phase, I will keep that training block the same all the way through. So like his lower body strength block, he'll do like a squat or a deadlift, let's say, in the eccentric block, and he'll do it on a tempo. Mm-hmm. Well, then the next training cycle, he'll do it on like a pause, like with some type of pauses, and then he'll do it like concentrically, where we're focusing on like really loading up the concentric, and then the next training cycle we'll go into like a peaking cycle, and I'll pick exercises based upon that. But it's like that, like I usually don't go over 5 reps in that block. That stays the same all the way through. It's not like it starts at 20 and then you go to 15 and you go to 12, then you go to 10. Like it's always in that like 3 to 5 rep range.
Interesting.
2 to 5 rep range. And I keep that all the way through. And that's like the same for like all my blocks, like in the accessories. Like I'm always keeping some level of hypertrophy, muscle development in the program at all times.
Yeah.
It's just focused differently.
That's really cool.
So yeah, it's like no matter what, like his accessory work is going to be focused on like building muscle, correcting imbalances, and we're keeping that the whole way through. He's never not going to do like sets of 12 to 15 on something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's always going to do that, but like the training cycle, the exercise selection and the training cycle selects the exercises for me, kind of a thing.
And so do you use something to measure like effort during their strength training? So I use like a scale, like the RPE scale, where
I use RIR. Yes, okay. Dude. So do you know what RIR is?
I do not.
That's reps in reserve.
Reps. Okay, yeah.
So RIR is like really easy to conceptualize for young guys, because like, and I do this like with So okay, let's take a push up. But a lot of people will train like push-ups and pull-ups, like body weight, and they'll say like, this set do 20, this set do 15, this set do 12. I would much rather, because like some kids can't do 5.
Yeah.
So what the hell are you doing giving them 20?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I would much rather give a kid like that an RIR type focus.
Okay.
So like with the kids I train, I'll say, this set, I want you to stay 3 reps from failure. This set, I want you to say 2 reps from failure. This set, I want you to get 1 rep away from failure. On a push-up, I don't even tell them reps.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's how I use RPE.
That's how you should, yeah.
It's like a 10 scale. And it's like if you have
I like it, but I think sometimes people get confused.
Okay.
I think sometimes people get, because you're like 8, you're like 8, and they're like 8 reps. You're like, no, or like something weird like that. Like something gets just like, I just like to make it as clean as I can.
Yeah,
and like,
makes sense.
So like in a strength block with a lot of these guys, like let's say I'm doing box squats. I really like box squats. We can go into that later, but like if I'm training box squats, I'll say I want you to work up to, and I'll give them reps all the way through because they need it. Like some guys you can just be like work up to a double, like a heavy double, and they'll just know what to do. They'll just like naturally ramp the weight up properly and they'll get there. Young guys are like, they need a rep set. They need like how they should warm up. They need to know like each set all the way to the top. So it's like, let's say, because like if you're talking about like strength development, you need like 10 good reps. And most, like especially if you're like you got an athlete, you need like 10 good reps. So I'll give them like, let's just say like a 5x2, and I'll say, I want you to have, on the last set, I want you to be at a 2 RIR. And I'll do this a lot on squats because I want their form to be good. So I'll say, on the last set, I want you to be at 2 RIR. What that does is, number one, it's like they're going to move the bar faster because it's lighter.
Yep.
They're going to have better form because they're not allowed to fail. Because if they do, they did it wrong.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then on that last set, they're going to move the bar relatively fast. They're not going to compensate because it's a 2 RIR.
Okay.
Or, and then, like, if I'm trying to get them closer to failure, I'll be like 1 RIR. You know what I'm saying? Like, very rarely do I ever be like 0 RIR. Like, I don't do that very often. You know what I'm saying? Especially, like, on a big lift. Because, when you fail a lift, man, there's, like, a lot of... I don't really believe in that. I don't really believe in, like, letting a kid fail. I hate when my kids fail. I get pissed. Oh, dude, like, my baseball players, they fail on a bench press. I'm pissed off. Because, because they'll do weird stuff. They'll compensate. They'll let elbows will flare out. Like, you're not training what I want you training.
Yeah.
You know?
It makes a lot of sense.
My baseball players, I'm like, your shoulders are super important. They should be important to you, but they're really important to me. Like, they should be just as important to you as they are to me. And, like, you know, bench press isn't bad, but if you do it poorly, it's really bad.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of people that blow their shoulders out strictly bench pressing. So, like, my baseball players, like, I'm telling them, I'm like, and they'll do it anyways, dude. Like, these high school kids, you know, like, they'll be like, their buddy will do, like, whatever weight, and they're like, no, just get under there. And I'm like, dude, it drives me nuts. Like, I'll go crazy on them. Like, I'm like, do you see, like, the reps in reserve? That's where I want you. Like, that's not, like, a suggestion.
That's not a suggestion.
It's not a suggestion. Like, I want you to not freaking fail. Because if you fail, that was a bad rep. That was a bad rep. And that's not going to push us any closer to our goals. And you failed, and you compensated. Your body remembers the last rep. Your body is always going to remember the last rep. So if your last rep is round-backed, coming up on a deadlift, your body remembers that, and that's how it's going to pull it next time, even on the freaking easy stuff. And for a powerlifter, that might be fine. I don't know. I don't train powerlifters, but for an athlete, dude, that ain't flying. That ain't flying for anybody. Like, for like a general pop client, dude. I train my general pop people like pretty freaking similar. I have a lot more intuition with them because, like, most people that come to me have, like, joint issues and things like that. But anyways, dude, we just got off again.
That's good stuff. It's good though.
But
so what do you love about box squats?
Oh, they're safer. They're a little safer, especially for a kid that's like. So for kids, some kids suck at squatting, and sometimes it's beyond repair. Like, so for, like, me personally, I'm a kid that sucked at squatting.
I think it's harder for taller people.
It's actually got a lot to do with how long your femurs are.
It makes a lot of sense.
Like, if your femurs are super long and you got, like, a shorter torso, you're gonna fold like an accordion. Like, you're gonna just, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't look good. And you have to have, like, a front load in order to. That's why I like goblet squatting. But box squatting is safer. It's more hip dominant. So, like, you're gonna get more of a. When you're thinking about somebody sprinting faster, you want to train their engine. So their engine's like, so I usually will train their engine in the strength block, and I'll train their brakes in the accessories.
Okay.
So when I'm thinking about their engine, I'm thinking about their glutes, their hamstrings, some of their quads. Your quads actually, when you're talking about, like, speed development or change of direction, your quads are more like decelerators.
So they're more of the brakes.
Yeah. Quads are more the brakes. But like, you still have to train them, like, in higher rep ranges, but they respond well to, like, in lower rep ranges, I'm sorry. But yeah, quads, like, when it comes to, like, and a lot of times if you have a kid, like, jump, you can tell if he's quad dominant or not because he'll start, like, moving forward. Like, if you had a kid do, like, a vertical jump and he, like, starts, like, hopping forward, you can tell he's, like, doesn't have enough posterior chain, more or less, because, like, your posterior chain is really important for, like, you ever notice, like, sprinters? Well, some of them do, some of them don't, but, like, a lot of, like, longer sprinters have smaller quads and, like, big glutes. Your glutes are your engine. Like, your glutes are super important. So, like, a box squat trains your glutes pretty well. Trains your glutes at a pretty high level, and you can manipulate the height of the box and focus on different things. I love that part of it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I love in, like, like muscle building cycles where I'm trying to like build a little bit more muscle with my guys. I love like throwing in like low box squats because they're challenging, but they're also not like so uncomfortable. Like some guys just have a hard time folding their knees up that much. Like, so I'd rather do that with a lighter modality. Like, you know, like doing like a full front squat. Like some guys it hurts, and if it hurts, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people like will just like force their guys into stuff. They're like front squat. I'm like, does that hurt? And even if they don't want me to, I'll switch them off. They're like, it hurts, but I'm fine. I'm like, no, it's that.
Yeah, right.
We're switching.
Yeah.
We're switching exercises right now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because like this doesn't matter. This exercise doesn't matter. It's not going to help your development if it hurts. It's going to make you hurt more when you're out there sprinting. So screw that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I'll switch their exercise right there. So like that's why I like box squatting because typically it doesn't hurt. It trains their engine a little bit better. It's safer. And yeah, it's fun to program because you can manipulate like, oh, another thing. If you do a box squat correctly, you're breaking up the eccentric and the concentric portion of the lift.
Yeah.
So you can get like a harder concentric off of it, because like especially if I'm training like strength, I'll have them sit back and like sit all the way down to the box. Like I think like I tell them if they're sitting on a scale. I learned this from Joe DeFranco. He's a really good guy I listen to. But if they're sitting on a scale, you want 90% of their weight to be on the scale or to be on there. They want the scale to be, say 90% of the weight. So they sit back with 90% of their weight. They don't let their heels come up. They keep their feet down. Sit back with 90% of their weight. Sit down to the box and then explode up. So then you get like rapid force production. You know what I'm saying? So like in a regular squat, you don't really get that much because you get like stretch reflex out of the bottom, unless you're doing a pause. But like I said, like if you're doing a pause, you probably need to be at full range of motion. A lot of kids can't even get there. So, and it's like, if I can just put a box under your ass and have you sit to the exact range of motion that I want you to and explode up from there, like why would I not do that?
Right. Yeah.
And then like for guys, like for their knees, like a lot of people are like, well, what about their knees? But like, well, in their accessory block when they're doing single leg work, maybe I'll do something where they, with lighter loads and higher repetitions. That's why it's good to have that type of system, like a conjugate type, build everything in from the beginning. I don't like to call it conjugate because like I'm not super into it. Like I'm not super into conjugate. I don't think it's like, like I think it's smart, and I think there's certain principles that you should take from it and glean from it. But like I don't think it's the end all be all. Some people are just like obsessed with it, like they just freaking love it, you know. And I'm like, it's okay. But like when you build everything in from the beginning, if somebody has something like that, you can build in accessories that help them offset their main lifts. Like if somebody's really into like box squatting. If somebody responds better to box squatting, you can do something like a deeper range of motion, like even like a leg press, like single leg press. You can do deeper range of motion, single leg presses. You can do deeper range of motion, reverse lunges. There's all sorts of things that you can do to train that deeper range of motion in a lighter fashion that doesn't hurt the athlete.
Okay, so you're talking about getting that knee through a full range.
Yeah, through a full range. Okay. Like a lot of people are just like, oh, you just box squat? I'm like, no, I'm not. Dude, like that's why a lot of people think they're like squat, bench, deadlift. It's like no, like there's other exercises out there that are super effective, and like accessory training is probably one of the most important parts of training athletes because that's where you can like get them in like range of motions that are applicable to their sport, or like maybe they have a hard time getting into. Like I train a lot of baseball players right now, and like I really like progressing like frontal plane exercises. You know what that means? Like lateral type stuff. Yep. I'll have them progress like crossover step ups, Cossack squats, and I'll progress those like over time and make them more complex as they go through their training cycles. What was I saying? I just completely lost it. Anyways, but I like progressing those types of things in the accessory work. That's what I was saying. Yeah. Like I like progressing like that type of movement in the accessory work. Yeah. Because those are movements that like I have catchers that I train, like different catchers. I have a guy that plays for Wright State. I've got a bunch of different catchers I train. And they say one of the most important things is being able to be strong like in any position. You ever watch Joey Votto play baseball?
No.
Dude, they will throw the ball at him, and he's like freaking 50. I don't know how old this dude is, but he's old, right?
Yeah.
And he's like in the splits, like boom, boom, catch the ball. And it's like,
Wow.
holy cow, and he's like so strong, like positionally.
Yeah.
That's what I want my guys to be like.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to get in positions and be comfortable in them. So you
Yeah.
can't do that with maximal loads.
Yeah, that's very true. And a lot of like our traditional lifts, like squat, bench, deadlift, are all in the sagittal plane. They're not even in the frontal plane. So
Right.
it's like, and that's something that I've been getting a lot more into now is moving people in multiple planes, because it's like if you're, especially for an athlete, right? You need to be able to move like very much in the frontal
Your
plane.
sport, like especially.
Boom, boom, yeah. And so I have a guy who I'm training who does Taekwondo now, and so like we've been talking about different things, and then I've been doing my own research, and like I'm able to implement things into his training, and I'm like, he I was like, I'm gonna try this, and he was like, cool, let's do it. Which his attitude about it is great, because he's like, let's try a bunch of different things. Like, this is a new way of training for me, and so let's do it. And I'm like, great. But like moving in that frontal plane, because you have to be able to stop and cut to a different direction, or stop in the frontal plane and then move to the sagittal plane, right? And then you have to like change directions a lot in a lot of different sports, especially in a fighting, in a combat sport.
Right.
And that's something that I've been getting a lot more into. So doing a lot more like those, like lateral lunges, and I've been implementing a lot of like a lot more things to develop like springy like movements into like my classes for like their warm ups, and just get them moving in those ways, because it's like, why? Because in Taekwondo you train a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a problem with that, because we're not developing any strength. We're only developing like this flexibility, which I think is actually going to take away from our ability to cut and change directions, because you're stretching out that muscle. You're like taking away from that like stretch reflex.
Yep.
Because you're stretching that muscle. And so if you're like not training those like fast movements and like cutting to different directions and not training that stretch reflex, then you're not going to be able to do that very efficiently.
Body's going to freak out when it gets there.
Exactly.
It's like you're training it passively, and you don't have strength in the range that you gained.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really smart.
And
that's how you should be thinking.
And it's great.
And I also think, like, I was just thinking about from a standpoint, like I see like pictures of you and Will like kicking. Mm-hmm. I'm like thinking about like how important your glute medius and all your, hips are for that, like to get your leg up there. I couldn't even do that. Like if I tried to do that right now, I could throw my shit out.
Bro.
But yeah, like you need to be strong in a bunch of different positions, and like there's not a whole lot of exercises that train that well. Mm-hmm. Like you're not gonna get like doing glute glute medius like kicks like on a cable. Like screw that, dude. Like that's not
practical.
No, dude. No, we're not trying to build peaches.
Yeah, you just want like massive glutes.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to build like these like dysfunctional like glutes.
Yeah.
I need something fun. You need some functional exercises, things that like, and that's the way to do it. Like you feel like on like crossover. Like my pro baseball player today, he did. He's in that 1x20 phase. Mm-hmm. I had him doing crossover like step downs.
What does that look like?
So like he has his hand on the wall, and he's got one foot up on top of the box, and he's bringing that back foot behind him and tapping it to the ground, and then standing back up. So basically, like he's like crossing behind him, like you ever seen like a curtsy lunge?
Yeah,
kind of like that. I don't really like curtsy lunges. We can go over that later. I like the crossover step ups to be up on boxes.
Interesting.
Those curtsy lunges are uncomfortable for most people.
Is that so?
But like I do that up on a box, and he'll like it's like basically like a because it trains internal rotation, like internal rotation of your hip.
Yeah.
Because your knee's inside your, you know what I'm saying? And then like a Cossack squat, we're train more external. And you need both.
Yeah. Especially
when it comes to like sprinting. Like a lot of people that are really fast have like a ton of internal rotation in their hips. A ton.
Really?
Yes. If you watch like sprinters hit the ground, they like pronate, like get to the inside edge of their foot super easily.
Huh.
It's like crazy.
That's really
and then there's some people that do the exact opposite. But like I've heard the arguments too, like that some people like it's like supinators, people that are like on the outside edge and more externally rotated are better accelerators, and then like pronators are more better at top end. I heard that on a podcast the other day.
Interesting.
But like in that, I've heard that before then, but yeah, I just like, it was super interesting to me, and it started making me think about it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like we need to probably train both.
Yeah, something I find myself doing is stand on the sides of my feet all the time. It's
Outsides?
Yeah, I stand on the outsides of my feet, and I've always considered myself a better sprinter.
Accelerator?
Yeah, I have a pretty decent vertical, and
Yeah.
I was like, that's really interesting.
Probably, yeah, you're just like a better like force producer. Like, and if I had you run like 60 yards, how would you look after 25? I don't know.
I probably wouldn't look very good after it.
But like a lot of those guys just naturally have that, and like a lot of like real good single leg jumpers have a lot of IR. Because like if you watch somebody go up for a dunk, they're like strong on the inside edge of their foot when they hit the ground, because there's a lot of force just going into one leg when you do that.
Yeah. Huh.
Like I personally don't have a lot of that. Like I can dunk, but I dunk off 2 feet. So I'm probably more externally rotated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like a lot of guys that I've watched do single leg jumps, like especially the guys who are like super bouncy, like the guys in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And dude, this is important because like if you train them super externally rotated, you can mess that up.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. Like, so if I had like NBA players and stuff, like my programming principles and everything would be just totally different. Like most people aren't like that though.
Yeah.
That's like the 1% of the 1%. These guys that are just like insanely athletic.
Right.
You know what I mean? They have these like built-in fascial systems that are just nuts.
Yeah.
Like that's the 1% of the 1% of people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you'll watch them take that final step of their before they take off, and then like they kind of like roll to the inside edge of their foot and then they explode up and dunk it. Like
really? So like towards their big toe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
And they're strong in there.
Huh.
You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys are knock-kneed too, bro. It's crazy. Like these guys are like Kevin Durant when he shoots a basketball, they call it like Jake Tura calls it the triangle. Like his knees come in.
Huh.
His knees come in and when he shoots a basketball.
That's so fascinating.
And like a lot of guys are like that. And because they're like really good at like internal rotation. They're like it's interesting.
Yeah, that really
And if you think about like a funnel, like so a lot of times when I'm having kids do like hurdle hops, right? Kids that are really externally rotated or like force dominant type athletes suck at like getting off the ground fast. Mm-hmm. And if you watch them do like a hurdle hop, they don't pre-flex to the ground. So like they don't like, before their feet contact the ground, they don't like attack it beforehand. And their feet are wide. Like they'll try to do hurdle hops wide.
Huh.
And if you think about, like I tell them, this is how I cue them. Because like when you're talking about like, when you're trying to get like better performance on like, especially like speed and agility type exercises, your cueing has to be different. So this is pretty interesting, but like cueing is so important when it comes to training. Like it drives me crazy. Like when I hear people cueing it incorrectly now, it like kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
You're like
when people are like sprinting, and they're telling them to get their leg in a certain position, or they're telling them to get their foot in a certain position, or like they tell them, like they give them an internal cue. Whenever you're doing like a performance type action that's fast, you need to have external cues. Dude, I did this today. Like, I'm not kidding you, today. Like, just before I came in here, I was training some kids on some sprints out here. Like, I got this kid, injured his glute playing soccer. And his running form's just all off. It looks super wonky. He's like doing like some Waluigi stuff where he's like knees are going like out here. But anyways, I was training a soccer player, and they were both doing like top end speed mechanic type work, right? And I was watching them run, and they're thinking about like, you can tell they're trying to think about like their positions. And I was like, stop thinking about your positions. I was like, watch that out. Like, don't think about anything that your body's doing. Don't think about that. I want you to think about something external. So like the soccer girl, I said, picture me, I'm going to throw a ball out in front of you, because I had to run in like longer, like I had to run in like a 40. It might have been I can't remember how long it was. It might have been like 60 yards. But I was just trying to get her running a little bit longer and working on her cycle. And I was like, picture if I threw a ball as far as I could out in front of you and you had to chase it down. How would you run? Go. And then all of a sudden, she like cleaned everything up and it was like sprinting real well.
Huh.
But if you're like, get your knees up, pump your arms front to back, and you're giving them all these like internal cues, like thinking about their body,
yeah,
they're gonna run like crap.
That makes a lot of sense though, because like, like say with a, it's like if someone doesn't know how to flex their glutes, right? You're not gonna tell them flex your glutes because they're not gonna know how to do that. So it's like Dr. Luke had he had one of my clients and he did this for him. He was like, imagine there's a walnut and you're crushing it with your your butt cheeks.
Yeah.
It's like crush the walnut, and like it's an external. It's like what you're talking about. It's like an external cue because you're not saying flex your glutes because they might not know how to do that.
Right.
So it's like crush the walnut, and it's like magic. Or like I have people whenever they're doing bench press, it's like retract your scapula, pull it down. You could tell them that, but they might not know what that means. So it's like I tell them stick your chest out, and then it's like magic. It's like they just do it.
Another good one with bench pressing, best cue for bench pressing, because like I just am a Nazi with that. Because if I didn't cue bench pressing this way, I wouldn't do it. So like, especially just because like how important the shoulders are on a lot of the kids I train, like volleyball players, baseball players, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We can get back to like the sprinting stuff here in a minute, but like tell them to break the bar.
Like they're trying to break it in half.
Yeah, like try to bend the bar in front of you,
because
because like something super important about that is like when you're thinking about bench pressing, your lats are super important.
Yeah.
Lats are really important. They're like driving that bar up. Like a lot of times, like powerlifters will prime their lats before they do a bench press.
Right.
So I always tell them, and I do this myself too, I'm like, dude, freaking break it. Break the bar. Because then all of a sudden they create this like tension. Their lats turn on. Their shoulders turn back. Their scapulas retract. They're breaking the bar the whole time. And then they have like way better eccentric control. So like that's a pretty good cue.
I like that.
That's a good external cue for bench pressing. Another one that I use is like if I'm back to sprinting, if a kid's sprinting and I see them reaching. So like reaching's bad and striking out in front of your center of mass is bad because it creates braking forces. So like if a kid's running and here's his center of mass and he's reaching out and pulling the ground out in front of him, every time he hits the ground he's putting a brake on. Your heels are your brakes, the forefoot's your accelerator. So every time he reaches out in front of his center of mass, he's putting the brakes on and putting energy in the opposite direction of where he wants to go.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So I do a couple of things to get kids to sprint more effectively. I'll have them do things like resisted marches on sleds where they have to, like I'll do exercises that rehearse that, and then I'll give them cues. So like sled drag's really effective, and then I'll be like, run away from the start point. So like if a kid's starting here, a lot of kids will be like, if you put a cone out here, they'll run to that cone.
Yeah.
So they're looking at that cone, they're reaching for the fucking cone. No, you run away from here. And I'll be like, if you were on the beach and a tiger came running out from behind you, if a tiger came running out from behind you and started to start chasing you down, you want to get away as fast as possible, right? You want to kick dirt in that dude's face. Kick dirt in his face, pop, 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 get him attacking back behind their center. And then it creates this like, their whole, like, that's an external cue.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about run to that cone. They're thinking about apply force back.
That makes a lot
behind
of sense.
Me.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're striking under their center. They're getting a better acceleration phase, and then they're.
That's really fascinating.
Run away from the start point. That was the first time I heard that cue, and I was like, I need to give them something that's gonna like catch their brain. I was like, run away from the start point. I mean, run away from a tiger. I mean, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Run away from that tiger on the beach, dude.
That's really cool.
And I think about the times that I've run my absolute fastest. Like they used to put these speed testers on us. Like it would be like, it would be showing how fast we were running. I remember like the time I ran the fastest in college one time was I tackled the guy on the 5-yard line. It was on a kickoff. And I was next to the kicker. I was the dude, like, so the kicker's here, and I'm here on the kickoff team. And dude, he kicked the ball, and my eyes just like locked onto it, and I was just, whoo, 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 whoo. And it was the fastest I've ever ran in my life, and it was like shown on that miles per hour thing. I can't remember how fast it was, but I was hauling. It was the fastest I've ever ran, like on an all-out sprint. So sometimes when I'm doing sprints now myself, I'm like, dude, how did I run that time that I freaking smacked that dude against Manchester on the 5-yard line?
Yeah.
And I think about that, and I'm like, that's okay. Chase, like I actually can see the dude standing there waiting for the kick. Like I'll picture that. The dude standing there waiting for the kick, and I'll freaking, and those would be like my better sprints.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'll put the timer on. Like, dude, it's pretty remarkable. Like how
That's
well
really cool.
External cueing works, and I think internal cueing is good too. Like when it comes to building muscle or like sarcoplasmic hypertrophy type work, like where you're like trying to. Because like when you're doing like strength work in the 5s and 8s, you're creating more like cross section. This is how all my teachers are gonna know I was listening in school, right? That's like myofibular hypertrophy, like where you're like creating more cross section, right? You're like laying down new muscle fibers, and then like when you're doing pump work, like high repetition work, like and I think it takes more than what people think. Some people are like 12 to 15. I'm like, I've done 12 band curls before and like felt nothing. Like you need to go into freaking, your arms feel like they're gonna fall off. Like I'll have kids do banded leg curls until they're freaking crying. I'll be like, and they like look at me like I'm crazy. Yeah. I'm like, I want 50 to 75 reps because I know they're not gonna get blood in there unless they do that. Like you're not gonna get blood in there doing 12 leg curls with a band. Like ain't no way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that, but like when it comes to like trying to build like that, like catch a pump. You do want to think more like internally. Like you want to think about like flex the like when guys are doing bicep curls. Dude, you ever watch people do bicep curls in here? It's atrocious. Like
in base.
Yeah, dude. Like there's one thing is like to know a lot of bicep curl variations is cool, but like if you don't know how to do a bicep curl properly, like you're not gonna get big arms anyway. So who cares? Like if you know like these all fancy setups and shit, it doesn't matter. Like that's why you get a personal trainer. Because like it's not that they're going to do something totally different than what you would do in your own program. Like they are. I mean, we are. Like we're going to do something better. But like it's not that alone. It's the fact that they're going to have you do every exercise with better intention. That's what I think is so important about having a personal trainer. Because like if you think about like a bicep curl, right? I always tell my kids like don't look at the weight and flex the weight up. Like if you're doing a bicep curl, I will literally tell them, don't lift it, because then they're just like, I say flex the weight up and flex as hard as you can and then control it down. Flex as hard as you can. Like, if you want to get somebody like, that's
massive.
If you want to get somebody looking good, dude, you need to do stuff like that. Like that's what I wanted to do originally. Like when I came out, like when I was younger, I wanted to be like a celebrity trainer in California. I thought that would be really cool. Now I think that would suck. But like that's kind of what I wanted to do. So like I have studied like some bodybuilding and things like that, but yeah, it's not like my main focus. But anyways, yeah, what were we talking about? External versus internal cues. Yeah, dude, we were talking about that.
It was super
That's
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And you were talking about like you were talking about the hops, like the elastic hops and stuff like that. So I've really gotten into recently. So there's this like surgeons. Have you ever heard people like talk bad about speed ladders?
No.
So like there's these like, so this trainer, like Joe DeFranco, same guy I'm talking about, I absolutely love him, so I'm not talking bad about him at all. But when he was like a few years ago, got on this thing where, and a lot of people listened to him, so a lot of people were like, will repeat his sentiments, right? He got on this thing where he's like, I hate speed ladders, they don't train agility, they don't do anything. Like speed ladders, like where you like, you know? And I agree to a point and then I disagree to a point. So like Joe DeFranco talks about how he doesn't like speed ladders, and now there's all these trainers that will make posts on Instagram. Like I think I've done it before, like when I was younger and I didn't know this stuff, or like actually have a lot of experience. But like all these trainers will post like speed ladders don't make you more agile. Ditch the speed ladders, ditch that. But then it's like they kind of do help though, because you're getting like you're getting these like fast foot contractions, and since you know where you're going to put your foot, you can go super freaking fast. So you're getting like all these like preflexes to the ground. So like I think, so when I'm doing like speed and agility, right? Like let's say I'm doing like a lateral movement day, I will try to get my athletes to rehearse the positions that they're going to work like in the deeper drills. So like let's say they're going to do like some type of chaotic drill where they're like laterally shuffling and like guarding someone. I will get them doing like drills that kind of mimic and prime them for those positions and get them to like preflex the floor away and get off the ground faster side to side. And like when I was listening to that and I believed that, I was a worse trainer because I didn't have this like, I wasn't training feet, I wasn't training faster contraction speed. So like there is advantages to knowing where you're going to put your feet. Like I really like drills where like I'll take slant boards and have kids do like single leg hops where they're like pop, 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 and moving their foot as fast as they freaking can and trying to move as fast as they can on a single leg. And you'll notice like when they do stuff like that, it's predetermined, right? So they know where they're going, but one leg's moving way faster than the other. What does that tell you?
They have deficits on one side.
They have deficits, and if I have them try to change directions and go over there, compared to going over here, they might be slower, and they might use that other foot to get over there. So if I can get them stronger on like one leg doing like, and I like ladders for it, dude, ladders are fine. Like I'll do like little single leg hops and ladders with their bare feet. I'll have them doing them in a bunch of different directions. I'll have them do like, if it's like a laterally focused day, I'll have them do like 2 forward hops, 1 backward hop, 2 forward hops, 1 backward hop. In the frontal plane, moving side to side like that. And like, dude, you'd be amazed like how much more balance they have side to side without me even like really saying anything. Like a lot of coaches like do this stuff where they like tell them like, dude, I've worked with coaches that do this, but they'll like tell them like, throw this foot, go that way, throw this foot, go that way, instead of like giving them the structure that they need to do it naturally on their own.
So like, what do you mean by like like giving them a framework to work in, or like, what do you mean?
So like, if a kid, like let's say I have a kid do a side-to-side line hop. Like they're on one leg, they're going side to side with one foot as fast as they can. And a kid has with their right leg, let's say in 10 seconds they do 20 contacts, but their left leg they do 15. No kidding that they use that right leg to cut everywhere. So it's like I need to put drills into the program that allow them to improve that other side. And the only way to do that is to have predetermined like single leg hopping drills and like quick foot drills and things like that where they're like having to preflex and be fast off the ground. That's the only way you can do it. You can't just like throw them into like some of these coaches that say that, all they do is like chaos drills. Where they're like,
oh, I see.
They're like, everything needs to be like specific to the sport. So it's like, all they'll do is like have kids do like cone drills where they're like actually doing the movement that they're talking about. Or they'll do like chaos drills where they're like guarding people all the time. And they don't do that part because they're not thinking. Like they're not thinking with an open mind. Like you have to think about, what do all these exercises, okay, like don't just think about the drawbacks. What are the benefits of it? Like, what are the benefits of something like a single leg line hop or some types of like ladder drills? Because like, you're not gonna like you can teach a kid. Like it might not make him juke the crap out of somebody in a game like Bijan Robinson. Like it might like a speed ladder's not gonna teach a kid how to juke somebody out, but it might give them the ability to get off the ground faster in a lateral cut because they're practicing preflexing to the ground. You get what I'm saying? And they're training their feet to do that. They're training their feet, they're training their nervous system to get off the ground faster.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I really like that stuff especially if you're like thinking about like an agility training session. I love doing like different like quick foot drills and single leg hopping drills that are going to help prime for the session. And I'll just see it like over time. Like I don't even have to say anything, but like over time, kids will just naturally start moving better, like side to side, just because they're more balanced.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So anyways.
That's awesome. That's cool stuff, dude. It's great.
Holy cow. Hour and 43.
Yeah, man. Cool.
There's so much more stuff we could talk about. We'll have to probably do it again.
Yeah, I would love to.
That's fun. It's actually like, this has been really fun. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully I haven't talked too much. I'm not usually the type of guy either that like talks a lot like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, unless you like really try to get me. You know what I mean? But now my voice is even getting tired. So
yeah. Thanks for talking, man.
Dude.
I love absorbing this information. It's very cool stuff.
That's been super fun, man.
Yeah.
Follow Mikey Payton, man. This has been a good time. It's been an interesting work right here. So dude, I had a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Until next time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to do it again.
Till part 2.
Yeah. Right. I think.
We'll see how long.
Get it on a more like a regular basis would be cool, but
that would be sick. That'd be cool.
For sure.
All right.
Well, I better go get my little girl. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.